Namaste, Saraswati, Kiran, Chani, Shashwini, Chatri, Shatani, Shri Krishna Jayanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sukha, Vedanta, Shivasa, Vedanta, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
Yeah, Mata, you can start.
Om Adyantimirandasya Dhyananjana Shalagya Chachurinmelitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. As always, today I'm going to read the book Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita, chapter 9. As always, his Kirtana attracted musicians. Irving Harper, I make flutes and I play musical instruments. There are all kinds of different instruments that I make. When the Swami came, I went up and started playing, and he welcomed me. Whenever any musician would join and play their first note, he would extend his arms. It would be as though he had stepped up to the podium and was going to lead the New York Philharmonic. I mean, there was this gesture that every musician knows. You just know when someone else wants you to play with them and feels good that you are playing with them. And this very basic kind of musician communication was there with him, and I related to it very quickly, and I was happy about it. Lone musicians were always loitering in different parts of the park, and when they heard they could play with the Swamis chanting and that they were welcome, then they began to come by one. A saxophone player came just because there was such a strong rhythm section to play with. Others, like Irving Halpern, saw it as something spiritual with good vibrations. As the musicians joined, more passersby were drawn into the Kirtana. Prabhupada had been singing both lead and chorus, and many musicians joined, more passersby were drawn into the Kirtana. Prabhupada had been singing both lead and chorus, and many who had joined now sang the lead part also, so that there was a constant chorus of chanting. During the afternoon, the crowd grew to more than 100, with a dozen musicians trying, with their conga and bongo drums, bamboo flutes, metal flutes, mouth organs, wood and metal clackers, tambourines, and guitars to stay with the Swami. Irving Harpern, the park resounded. The musicians were very careful in listening to the mantras. When the Swami sang Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, there was sometimes a Krishna, a tripling of what had been a double syllable. It would be usually on the first stanza, and the musicians really picked up on it. The Swami would pronounce it in a particular way, and the musicians were really meticulous and listened very carefully to the way the Swami would sing. And we began to notice that there were different melodies for the same brief sentence, and we got to count on that one regularity, like one would count on the conductor of an orchestra or the lead singer of a madrigal. It was really pleasant, and people would dig one another in their ribs. They would say, "Hey, see," we would catch and repeat a particular subtle pronunciation of a Sanskrit phrase that the audience, in their enthusiasm while they would be dancing or playing, had perhaps missed. Or the Sami would add an extra beat, but it meant something in the way in which the drummer, who at that time was the Swami, the main drummer, would hit the drums. I have talked to a couple of musicians about it, and we agreed that in his head, the Swami must have had hundreds and hundreds of melodies that had been brought back from the real learning from the other side of the world. So many people came there just to tune into the musical gift, the transmission of the Dharma. Hey, they would say, listen to this holy monk. People were really sure that there were going to be unusual feats, grandstanding, flashy levitation, or whatever people expected was going to happen. But when the simplicity of what the Swami was really saying, when you began to sense it, whether you were motivated to actually make a lifetime commitment and go this way of life, or whether you merely wanted to appreciate it and place it in a place and give certain due respect to it, it turned you around. And that was interesting too, the different ways in which people regarded the Kirtana. Some people thought it was a prelude, some people thought it was a main event, some people liked the music, some people liked the poetic sound of it. Then Allen Ginsberg and Peter Orlowski arrived, along with some of their friends. Allen survived the scene and found a seat among the chanters. With his black beard, his eyeglasses, his bald spot surrounded by long black ringlets of hair, Allen Ginsberg, the poet patriarch, came to join the chanting, greatly enhanced the local prestige of the Kirtana. Prabupada, while continuing his ecstatic chanting and drum playing, acknowledged Allen and smiled. A reporter from the New York Times dropped by and asked Allen for an interview, but he refused. A man should not be disturbed while worshipping. The Times would have to wait. Allen, Tompkins Square Park was a hotbed of spiritual conflict in those days, so it was absolutely great. All of a sudden, in the midst of all the talk and drugs and theory for some people to put their bodies, their singing, to break through the intellectual ice and come out with total bhakti, that was really amazing. The blacks and Puerto Ricans were out there with drums too, doing conga. But here was a totally different kind of group, some of them with shaven heads, and it was interesting. It was a repetitious chant, but that was also great. It was an easy chant to get into, it was an open scene. There was no boxed corner there in the actual practice. So, general smiles and approval and encouragement as a beginning of some kind of real communal get together in the park with a kind of serious underbase for exchange instead of just hog dog on the drums. Prabhupada was striking to see. His brow was furrowed in the effort of singing loud, and his visage was strong. The veins in his temple stood out visibly, and his jaw jutted forward as he sang his Hare Krishna for all to hear. Although his demeanor was pleasant, his chanting was intensive, sometimes straining, and everything about him was concentration. It wasn't someone else's yoga retreat or silent peace vigil, but a pure chanting be in Prabhupada's own doing. It was a new wave, sometimes something everyone could take part in. The community seemed to be accepting it. It became so popular that the ice cream vendor came over to make sales. Besides Prabhupada, a group of young blonde haired boys, 5 or 6 years old, were just sitting around. A young Polish boy stood staring. Someone began burning frankincense on a glowing coal in a metal strainer, and the sweet fumes billowed among the flutists, drummers, and chanters. Hare Krishna. So here we can see again Prabhu's patience and his dedication. You know, now more music lovers and hippies are joining Prabhu's Kirtanam at Tompkins Square Park. Musicians of all kinds, from flutists and saxophonists to conga drummers, were all attracted and they were all absorbed in Srila Prabhupada's presence and subtle melodic variations. Prabhupada sometimes be the lead and the chorus. Musicians listened carefully how Prabhupada is singing and they felt something different in it. Mm. Prabhupada doesn't have a mic or other equipments, and sometimes he had to sing very loud for others to hear, and the veins from his temples pops out. Finally, the event transformed into a communal get together featuring diverse figures like famous personality, poet Allen Ginsberg, local residents, and curious passerby, all united by the repetitive, accessible chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The Kirtan party grew thick with incense and musical improvisation, and Prabhu's disciples performed dance, creating a scene of collective spiritual energy.